everyone, it's Froggy and I'm back again with another episode of Will a Wonderful World. There we go. So let's start. Okay. There were no bullets in the gun. Clang, a loud noise came from above. Don't move, I heard a man's voice. But there were no bullets in the gun. Something tells me this is probably right. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Let's try that. The nails fastened the vent register had been shattered by the bullet and it bounced off a few meters into a corner. After a tumble and a half, I fell and smashed into the white carpet along with the vent register. 5 meters away, the junkie was pointing his gun at me. He looked really scared and his hand was shaking. Don't you dare move! This was serious. I dropped my gun and held my hands behind my head. I did as he said and sat together with the other hostages. Shit. I was going to owe Unit 3 another big favor. A bullet that had come from the door hit me in the stomach. I slowly collapsed to the ground with my back against the wall. I could feel the warmth slowly leaving my body. The last thing I saw was some people arguing at the door. They were all strangers. Tears rolled down my face. It was true, they said. It was true what they said. The people you wanted to see the most in your last moments would be your own family. Well, that's not good. Okay. Let's try that. Where were the bullets? Wait. I had taken out the magazine yesterday while doing maintenance. I must have forgotten to bring it along earlier. Shit. I must have been too tired recently. My memory was getting really bad. Maybe in a couple of years I would have Alzheimer's disease. Oh. First day of school. Cool. I paged Min Jun through radio that there was a change in plan and we needed to fall back. I heard a loud boom coming through the air duct behind me just as I climbed out of the vent. Only later did I learn that the room with the target had an inexplicable explosion. The investigation afterwards indicated that everyone in the room had been burnt to ashes. There were no survivors. I never imagined that forgetting a magazine would turn out to have saved my life. I suppose today wasn't such a shitty day after all. Still bad. Okay. Try that. I accidentally knocked down a ladder that had been put against the wall. The guard in the room woke up. He stumbled into the hallway, still quite sleepy. I suddenly had an idea. Hands up! Don't make a sound or I'll shoot! I pointed the gun at his head. He held his hands up high and began sweating. Walk to the gate slowly. Do not speak to them. Do not lower your hands. Do not turn around! I pressed the gun against the back of his head and we walked slowly towards the gate. My palms were completely wet with sweat. Only I knew that I was more nervous than he. When we were only a few hundred meters away from the port, I smashed his head with the gun as hard as I could and knocked him out. And then I ran away as fast as possible. I didn't dare look back. There were still plenty of people on the street. Many stores were still open, even in the middle of the night. People were shooting me strange looks when I ran past them. They all seemed to be Asians. But I didn't dare stop and talk to them. Julie had been right about one thing. Dreams did come true when you did your best. I didn't know how long I had to run, but I couldn't take even one more step. I collapsed into a bunch of paper boxes stacked at the corner of an alley. The bullet hit the vent register. Then it happened to deflect and hit my shoulder. What a wonderful day for me. Blood was streaming down my arm and dripping onto the vent. Then it dropped onto the carpet of the room below. Wait. What is this? The target's steps were getting closer. Then he stopped. I didn't need to look. The bastard must be standing right beneath the vent. Soon he would lift his head and look up and notice me. There was a sound of the window glass shattering. Then it was the sound of flesh being destroyed. Mission complete. Everything went as planned. Well, almost. I stood next to the junkie's body, which was missing half of his head. Oh, shit. He was supposed to just lose a leg or something. This was a little different from what the old man had demanded. Min-jin had just rushed over from the building across the street. He dropped onto his knees with a thud as soon as he saw me. I'm sorry, Lieutenant. It was my mistake. I missed. It looked like he hadn't forgot the last time when he did not follow the plan exactly and had to write a 200,000-word report. If apologizing was good enough, what will we need the cops for then? I checked the junkie's pocket. There was only 50,000 won and half a pack of Marlboros. I stuffed the money into Min-jin's pocket and lit a cigarette for myself. Well, Choi Do-sung, which was the name of the junkie, was just trash in this society, and he deserved to die. After witnessing such a bloody ending, maybe his loser buddies would learn to behave a little too. Yeah, maybe it wasn't too bad after all. I touched Min-jin's head. Don't worry about it. Well done. Oh, good. You have solved Kang Bakya's problem, but don't forget about Chang Jiangmin's letter from earlier. Oh, right. It almost slipped my mind. Alright. There is one more thing that could help with your work. That's history. History? That sounds like something that I can use to review all of the endings that I have unlocked, right? Smart girl. Every ending that you have come across is archived there. When you run into something that's too complicated, try referring to the history for inspiration. Oh, one more thing. I have another small tip regarding these history archives. In here we can browse all of the possible endings to a letter. They are displayed on the right. Furthermore, they are arranged in the same order as the small squares that you see when you open a letter. They are arranged in this order: S, A, B, C, D, E, F, X. The ending with the small I is the one that you are currently viewing. I see. I think this could help with my deductions too, when the number of endings increase. Exactly. As for how you want to use it, that's totally up to you. Cell phone fell to the ground. So retry. Who the hell would be calling me at this godforsaken moment? I turned around and answered the phone quietly. It was Lieutenant Kang. Lieutenant briefly asked me about the situation and told me to hand the phone over to the husband. It was the Bungman gang. What? Is it true? Oh my, that's wonderful. Thank you. Wah. He hung up the phone and dropped the knife and hugged his wife, sobbing uncontrollably. Sue, it's all okay now. We can have our lives back. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, and it was all my fault. What just happened? I took my phone back from the man, confused. A strong gust of wind blew past us, and the man lost his balance. I quickly reacted, took a big step forward, and grabbed him, trying to pull him back. But I was pulled over instead. We fell off the ledge together. The world was spinning. It was 10 floors off the ground. No one would survive if we hit the ground. I swung my right arm out as hard as I could towards the roof ledge. Something flew out of my coat. It was a white ribbon that I had wrapped around my forearm with a small spearhead tied to its end. The spearhead wrapped around the metal bar on the ledge a few times and tightened the ribbon. It was my secret weapon. I called it my tail. For a moment, I let out a sigh of relief, thinking that we were safe. But the bar couldn't hold our weight and began to bend. I tightened my left fist and grabbed the man's shirt harder. I burned the last drop of energy inside of me with all of the adrenaline I had and forced every single muscle cell to release all of their power. Justice was not something that I only talked about. I threw him up towards the roof. We were quickly moving away from each other in opposite directions. The metal bar finally gave out and it was torn away from the concrete on the ledge. I began falling with it. I could hear the wind gushing in my ears. This is my justice. Oh, well, alright. He didn't die though, so that's good. Alright. Ding ding. I've still got these two, so I'm gonna start down here. But let me get some water first. This is a thirsty business. In the alley and tennis. I'm Li Wen, a senior at Yingnan High School. Today, the new art teacher assigned me as his assistant for the class, so I had to stay after class and clean up the art classroom. I tried to sneak a few peeks at the strange teacher while I was reluctantly mopping the floor. He was looking over the sketches that had been left in the room one by one, and then throwing them in the trash. It was just the two of us in the room. Neither of us was talking. Hey W! How was your first day? It was my homeroom teacher, Miss Yang, who burst into the room and broke the silence. She said hello to me, and held on to Mr. Wen's arm like a little girl. According to what I had heard from Jing, Mr. Wen and Miss Yang went way back. It was also Miss Yang who had recommended Mr. Wen for the newly vacant teaching position. The beautiful Miss Wang was said to be notoriously hard to get. Many male teachers in the school had allegedly been turned down by her. Was she involved with Mr. Wen? I grabbed the trash can and deliberately left the room. When I got back, there was no one there anymore. Someone appeared to have already replaced the barrel for the water dispenser too. It seemed that I could finally go home. Yay! It was starting to get dark when I finally finished cleaning the classroom. I walked out of the school gate and I noticed Mr. Wen was walking not too far in front of me, going in the same direction. That was strange. I thought he had left a while ago. I didn't want to talk to him, so I stayed behind at a distance, quietly watching his back. Such a bad-tempered and terribly dressed man. How exactly did he become a teacher again? Before I knew it, Mr. Wen had walked into a dark alley that led to my place. However, as soon as I stepped into the alley myself, I suddenly felt that something was wrong, and I immediately backed out. Mr. Wen had been stopped by two men, one in front of him and the other one behind him. The one facing my direction was wearing a tank top. He flashed a pocket knife in Mr. Wen's face. I hid behind the corner and tried to peek around it. Mr. Wen took out his wallet and handed it over without any resistance. That was smart, I thought. Better safe than sorry. The tank top guy fiddled with the wallet for a while and then slammed it on the ground. $20? Do you think I'm a fucking beggar? He punched Mr. Wen in the face. Mr. Wen stumbled back and bumped into the guy behind him. He was still not resisting. The tank top guy placed his knife on Mr. Wen's face. Be smart. Give me all your money. Judging from the look on his face, maybe that 20 Wen was all Mr. Wen had. We were too far away from the main street, and there was no one else around who could help. I suddenly had an idea. I took my racket out of my bag and grabbed a tennis ball. This was the time to test the results of my nightly practices. Ball toss. Backswing. Please hit the target, please. The ball was flying at a speed of 180 kilometers per hour. A gust of wind suddenly swept by. The ball was blown off its path by the wind and missed the target. Instead, it hit the back of Mr. Wen's head. Mr. Wen fell down to the ground with a thud like a brick. The two men noticed me, and they seemed to be just as shocked as me. They must have thought that I wanted to kill the man lying on the ground for some reason. The tank-top guy took one step towards me. I began to picture how they would force me into the corner, pull a chainsaw out from behind them. What is it with you and chainsaws, lady? And cut me into pieces. Oh no, I couldn't stay there any longer. I'm sorry, Mr. Wen! I screamed silently in my head and ran away with my hands covering my face, leaving Mr. Wen there by himself. The next day, Mr. Wen did not come to class. The school put out an announcement saying that he had been badly injured in a robbery and that he was in a coma at the hospital. The announcement also reminded the students to be careful on their way back home. It was all my fault. I should not have left him alone. There must be a better way. Li Wen. Alright, so let's move on to the next letter. My name is Jimmy. I'm a transfer student. I arrived in Beijing not too long ago, and now I'm a senior at Yingnan High School. The reason I chose this school was because I had a serious crush on a girl here. Just a few days ago, I was fortunate enough to be her practice at a doubles tennis match on my first day at the school. At first, I was so thankful that I thought the goddess had finally smiled upon me. Yet I was totally embarrassed because I had never played tennis before. After that happened, I made up my mind. I was determined to improve my tennis skills just in case I had another chance like this. I adjusted the serve speed of the ball machine, walked back to the baseline, raised my racket, and got ready. In order to get better, I had bought a season membership at the club. I even finished watching all 178 episodes of the Kid of Tennis anime. I had complete faith in myself. I believed that I could make it work this time. The next time I got to play with her, I would show off my kick serve, my pick-up volleys, my drive D, and even my zero-style slices to her. And she would look at me with admiration. Ha ha ha. The ball machine shot the ball with a pong. The ball was flying at 140 kilometers per hour. Ah! What a sneaky machine! How dare it serve a ball when I wasn't paying attention? Oh gosh, my wrist really hurts. The doctor said that I had hurt my tendon. I needed to rest my right hand for at least a month. He said that I should not even use a mouse, not to mention playing tennis. No. Doctor, I want to play! My dear goddess of fortune, if you can hear me, please heal my wrist. If it's necessary, I will even swear off video games for a month as a sacrifice to you. Please. Jimmy. Dear God, Jimmy. People have bigger fish to fry here. In these two letters, there are the same special restrictions. Special restrictions? Yes. Remember when I told you that the white pieces could be moved anywhere? Except past the first and last back pieces in the letter, of course? Yes, I do remember. When special restrictions are in place, that will no longer be the case. For instance, in these two letters, the two pieces 140 kilometers per hour and 180 kilometers per hour are in conflict with each other. That means they cannot be moved to the same side. If you try to do so, they will automatically switch places with one another. Both pieces are labeled with a double-headed arrow, which stands for conflict. In addition to conflict, there are other special restrictions, such as sequence. We'll deal with that when we see it. For now, you just need to remember that all of the pieces with special restrictions will be labeled with a red sign like this on the right side. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for it. So, we're gonna swap these two. And we're gonna do this. I shuddered a little. Before I realized that the ball was already right in front of me. I was so startled that I had to awkwardly block the ball with the racket. And I happened to hit the ball. The ball was too quick and it bounced off high up in the air. It was a perfect parabola. Parabola? Is it parabola or parabola? Let me know in the comments. and then it hit an old man who was practicing nearby. He ran over to me angrily and started yelling. I kept bowing and apologizing. I was nodding like a pecking hen. People in the real world are so scary. The ball hit the forehead of the tank top guy exactly as I wanted, but it bounced off and fell softly to the ground. The guy tumbled and fell to the ground. Before the second man realized what had happened, I sprinted towards his back as fast as I could. I smashed his head with my racket with all of my strength. Then I grabbed Mr. Wen's hand and ran towards the end of the alley. But I didn't see the first guy had already stood back up. I felt like Mr. Wen had let go of my hand and thrown his entire body onto my back. And then I felt him slowly collapsing to the ground. I turned around and Mr. Wen was lying on the ground unconscious. There was a pool of blood and it was getting larger and larger. Mr. Wen had to be hospitalized afterwards. Since he couldn't teach for a long time, he lost his job as well. Okay, well, we don't want that. So let's retry and we'll just swap these back. Okay. I shuddered a little, before I realized that the ball was already right in front of me. I was so startled that I had to awkwardly block the ball with the racket, and I accidentally hit a sweet spot. It actually felt really great. Wait, had I just hit it? Yes, I had! I had just hit an underspin shot. Oh wow, I had learned how to hit an underspin shot. Bonsai, bonsai! I jumped up and down with excitement. People nearby were shooting me admiring strange looks. What does bonsai mean? Was he hurt? No, bonsai is a Japanese phrase. It means hooray. Although based on my observations, lots of people outside of Japan use this word as well. They are from many different countries, and most of them are men. Oh, and they share another common characteristic. What is that? They are all single. Single? What's wrong with being single? Everything. Being single hurts. Huh. In the end, bonsai still means hurt, right? See, bonsai means being single, and being single means it hurts. This is very straightforward. That's mean. Being single does not hurt. Come on. I think I'm single too, bonsai. The ball hit the forehead of the tank top guy exactly as I planned. He fell down to the ground with a thud like a brick. Before the second man realized what had happened, I sprinted towards his back as fast as I could. I smashed his head with my racket with all of my strength. Then I grabbed Mr. Wen's hand and ran towards the end of the alley. 10 minutes later, I was panting heavily and I realized that I had run all the way back to my apartment building. Oh, and I was still holding Mr. Wen's hand. Mr. Wen, excuse me. This is where I live. I quickly let go of his hand. Well, I might as well do a home visit then, shall we? Home visit? For a senior? By an art teacher? Mr. Wen, actually, there's no one else home. I walked in front of him and explained. Do your parents always work late? Mr. Wen looked up at me while climbing up the stairs. The sunlight coming through the windows in the hallway was making him squint. No, I live alone. I stopped in front of room 413, but Mr. Wen didn't follow me. He stopped in front of room 414. He pointed to the door next to him with his thumb and smiled. I suddenly remembered. The first day after I had moved, the manager, Uncle Sun, had told me that a very famous artist from abroad had been living in an apartment next door. So that was him. We had actually met each other before. Nice. There we go. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos from me, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.